Hello. Hello, hello, hello. We good here? Okay. How's everyone doing? Good? Okay. I'm going to welcome my panelists up. Just call their names out and come up when they come up. So Nell from Capita, please come on. All right. Somebody's had their coffee today. Can we get Will from Higher Space? Come on up. Popular guy. Popular, Will. How about Mike? Mike from IWG. Have a seat wherever you like, yep. And then last, but certainly not least, we're going to welcome up another Mike, Michael from Java. Come on up. So I'm probably going to stand up and sit down and run around because I'm a little bit animated. I've had quite a bit of espresso today. Is that okay? Okay, good. And we're also talking about one of my favorite topics, which is live availability and live bookings. Before we get started, though, just a show of hands, please. Who's an event organizer in the room? Okay. Any venues? Any tech people? Okay, good. Good stuff. I think before we kick this off, we've set a specific distinction between live availability and live bookings. Now, obviously, live bookings require live availability, but live availability doesn't necessarily mean live bookings. So I want to talk about why we've sort of separated that out in this conversation. And Will, I wanted to start with you just to sort of touch on that because I know that's something that you guys are looking at.
Yes, it's something that we're putting a lot of work into, and that's due to feedback from our clients. You know, being able to check quickly the dates that are free across a wide range of venues for your events. I mean, that is kind of the holy grail for a lot of busy events organizers. It saves them so much time, and so yeah, we're really investing in it.
Excellent. Now, I've been involved in this conversation myself for a good part of 5 years, and I know that, well, it's not always been the best response that you get when you start talking about live bookings and live availability. But have you guys, and I'll just open it up, have you guys seen sort of mindsets change about this in the past few years? Are we still seeing some resistance? What's your view on that?
So, I mean, from a venue that's got a system, I think people are still scared about showing the live availability. There's that fear from an event manager that I'm going to give up parental control of my spaces. And it's about getting people to believe that you're not taking any booking, you are just sharing, and it's a way to progress your business. If you're not showing availability and your 3 competitors are, people are going to find the competitors that aren't, I suppose. So yeah, there's definitely a mindset change, but I feel there's still a fear factor that event managers also think something better is going to come along. I think from a venue, I don't mean that insultingly, but I think we all think there's another better booking coming along. So definitely a change, but it's slow.
Okay. And then I'm going to sort of back up. And by the way, we have Glisser here, so if you have any questions, please submit those online, and we'll come back to those in a bit. But going back to distinguishing between live availability and live bookings, I think let's set live bookings aside for a moment. Let's talk live availability for a moment. So, can I turn to you now? You're a buyer for lots of corporates, obviously. Why, from your perspective, why is live availability important?
I think, Caleb, it would make all of our venue fan teams' lives a lot easier. We would be more efficient. We would be able to respond quicker to our customers, and in a tripart relationship, which Capita Travel and Events are always in the middle of, having live availability at our fingertips makes our job easier, but then we're passing that efficiency back on to our customer.
Mm. Have you guys looked at the correlation between savings maybe from admin amongst the team if you had access to live availability?
Yeah.
And then, dare I say, live bookings, but have you looked at sort of savings?
So on average, our spend a year is around 110 million. So that's the customer spend that we manage. And about 55 to 60% of that spend is on simple one-day meetings. So if we could take away some of the backwards and forwards and see availability on our systems, live availability, that would mean that our operational team would be able to spend more time on the bigger, more complex inquiries where we really need to hold that person's hand and take them through the complexities of a 3-day event with team building and lots of other suppliers.
I want to point out the term she used, simple meetings. I like that personally because we used to talk about size and capacities and duration of meetings, and I think all of that gets brought in to the question, but simple meetings is a good term I like to use. And I want to turn to you, Mike. Now, in regards to simple meetings, you guys have how many locations now globally?
We've got about 3,500 buildings and about 10,000 meeting rooms.
That's a lot of inventory to manage. And
luckily, I have some help.
do you have live availability? Are you able to internally within the organization see live availability in real time?
Sure. So across all of those meeting rooms, I think here we need to just distinguish between a meeting and an event, which probably means different things to different people. So with the meeting room, what I mean is a physical room that's actually in our systems as inventory that can be booked. All of those rooms, we have live availability and can be booked online. When we talk about events, which is more, booking out the open co-working space for an evening event, which we don't have in all of our buildings, that's very unstructured in our business. It's managed more locally. It's something that's on our roadmap to productize, but that's a lot more. Currently, we don't have live availability of that type of booking, actually.
But for the simple meetings, you do?
Yes.
And if we take that further, live bookings, do you have the ability for live bookings for the simple meetings?
Yes. So we have had for several years the ability to, for any of our customers, whether it's through our customer portal or through the app, to book any of those rooms. And obviously through that process, they can see if it's available or not, what the price is, and they can put their credit card details in. Even though we've had that facility for 3-4+ years, currently we only have about 40 to 50% of our bookings which are actually made online. So we still have lots of clients and customers who are still going to the front desk, still phoning up or emailing reception staff to make the booking.
Are you able to sort of quantify that and put some perspective around those bookings? How many bookings do you have, numbers globally?
To give a sense, globally, we in September this year, we did approximately £10 million revenue in meeting room bookings.
So 40 to 50% of that is done online?
Correct, yeah.
It's pretty strong. Is anybody live tweeting? Anybody doing on social today? No? Can you please? Just kidding. Okay, so I want to turn to you, Mike. So your company, you guys provide technology to venues to be able to facilitate live availability, live bookings. Have you seen over the last few years an increase in adoption? What are you seeing?
Yeah, definitely. Technology's changed as well to help people. So when you're showing availability now, you don't have to show all of your bookings. You can just show your confirmed bookings. You don't have to show all your spaces. So that fear of, I've got to open my doors and show the world how busy I am or how busy I'm not, you can manage what you show now. Or before going to a booking, just getting someone to make that inquiry. So if you just showed maybe half your confirmed bookings or just your larger spaces. So lots of flexibility there. So people are warming more to that. And from an account management point of view, our existing customers, it's still quite low. So I would say about 40% when they get to a renewal of their system, they're now asking about live availability. But for new inquiries coming in, new sales leads, we've seen about 75-80% of those will include some form of question about view availability, live availability, integration with other calendars. So yes, it's definitely moving forward from a high rate.
So the technology is advancing. You mentioned integration, and I'm going to just, I think I want to pose this question to sort of everybody, but when we talk about the fear you mentioned, what I used to hear in this conversation is, from the venues is that there was a fear of giving up control. So if I put live availability out there and my venue's not available or a specific space is not available and an organizer sees that, I won't get the call. But if they call me, then maybe I can say, well, that date's not available, but another date would be. How are you guys seeing that part of the conversation go, and what's your response to that fear?
So I think that people that are booking meetings are much more savvy than probably sometimes everybody gives them credit for. So if a date comes up that they're looking for and it's unavailable, if you're booking a holiday and the date comes up and they're unavailable, then you would look for another date. If you want to go to that particular venue, if you're just searching for, if one of our clients wanted a meeting in Leicester and they were absolutely fixed on the date, then that would mean that, yeah, we would look for another venue. But if that was the same, we understand our clients' expectations and their specific requirements, and we would balance that with the venue as well. So if we're looking online, dates are unavailable, but the system shows that the next day is available, then we would go back to our clients and tell them that. It's the same over the phone. I think it's the context of the meeting that's important. So if there is a meeting that is more complicated and you understand that your client can only do it on a specific day, then you would probably want to have a conversation with somebody about that.
Will, you seem like you were going to say something.
So like that fear is something that we've really thought about a lot from the venue's point of view in building the technology that we're currently piloting. And I think there's three things that we've tried to make sure that we definitely do. And one is like to never have the technology say no. So the idea that we'd build something and it would say this venue's unavailable, that's not the live availability we want to bring. We want it to say, how about these alternative dates? Because that's the best practice sales training that someone working at a venue would do if someone did pick up the phone.
So is this a piece of AI, or how does that work?
So it's technology that we built. So it thinks like a person. If someone says, "Are you available on Tuesday the 18th?" and that date's booked up, it'll look at the next Tuesday, the Tuesday before, the day. That bit's not super sophisticated, but it makes sure that you never ever say no, and that helps really. That's one of the reasons now venues are starting to come to us, so that we can kind of push their availability. Mike?
Yeah, I think from our perspective, personally, I don't really have that fear, because if we're taking a decision, for example, of whether to work with a particular distribution partner, then really the logic is if we weren't on that platform, then we definitely wouldn't have had access to that demand and that traffic. So yes, there may be some instances where if they had come across us directly and phoned up, we could have facilitated a sale. But really, I think that's probably an edge case. And really, just by putting our venues on more platforms, we're going to have better success in filling up our occupancy.
Okay. I want to give you guys a chance to ask any questions. Were there any through Glister just yet, or does anybody have one? I can bring you a mic. And is there anyone who is adamant and thinks that we should have live availability and live bookings, or should not? You guys, yeah. We should, okay. All right, let's do that. Raise your hand if you think we should. Okay, is there any? Okay, good. So we're preaching to the choir here. We just move on to some best practices. Okay, so I want to go back to what you were talking about integration a moment ago. So the technology has advanced over the past few years, and you mentioned distribution partners. So maybe we'll start here. And how do you see the technology working? Because if a venue is using your tech, do you let them enable them to connect with various distribution partners?
Yeah, good question. So Preava works on the very principle that it's your data. So we give you access to the back end of the system using the API, so you can take the data and integrate with whoever you want to. There's no restriction. So if you want to do different search engines, you could almost give your top clients access to a calendar. I mean, from a great CRM point of view, if you went to your top client and say, hey, look, you've been trusted user, one of our top clients, why not have a login? You can check a live availability, make inquiries to us. I mean, that's a great selling point for your trusted partners as well, as a small thing. But yeah, so we give you the ability to integrate with the best of breed venue search engines as well from there. And technology's changed. You're now not just saying book a room. You want to filter a room by capacity, by size, by layout. So it's making the customer's journey much simpler as well. So if your website or the partner you're partnering with you're confident they know what they're doing as well, it gives that trust element. So it's an extension of your brand. If the booking process is simple online, they think you know what you're doing from a venue point of view as well.
Okay. Mike, in regards to distribution partners, you touched on that a little bit, and you said you want that out there so you can be exposed to the demand. How many distribution partners do you connect with?
Well, I mean, this is a kind of live project. I think in aggregate, we work with kind of between 5 and 10 currently. But that's not to say that we're currently integrated end to end with all of them. We're actually working on that at the moment. I mean, one of the challenges that in my role I face is our business is very focused on Office as a product. Meeting rooms is less than 5-10% of our overall revenue base. So getting any project or IT support for my particular project is just an internal battle that I'm faced with. So there are different ways we can work with distribution partners. I'm working with Will and HighSpace at the moment, but we can work in a more efficient way going forward. And clearly, we are scale enough that we have a tech team that can build APIs and support that. Getting them to prioritize, my project is where I'm facing the challenge.
So, as a supplier of meeting rooms globally, small meetings, simple meetings, if you were giving advice to another venue that's looking at making their availability live and then accepting live bookings for simple meetings, you're a big believer in that. Do you have anything specific that you would say to them to think about?
Well, I mean, I'm not a techie person, so I can't give an answer with regards to the technology. But my advice would be to find the right technology partner and to find the right distribution partner, and to identify those people, quite early on as a priority, because everything else will probably take longer than you think.
Okay. Nell, are you ready? Do you have any more stats for us, by the way?
I've got a whole page.
We had a chat last week on what we're going to talk about, and I said, can you please bring lots of stats? In regards to distribution, because you guys are a massive channel, do you prefer to have that seamless integration with all venues? How do you take that decision on who you connect with, who you don't?
I think if we looked at the type of booking first, and I think I said earlier, the context of the meeting is really important. And from an agency perspective, the meetings that we would want to be able to book online are those simple meetings. So we've got several projects that are ongoing at the moment where we're talking to different partners about live availability, but it's all determined by our client base and the type of meetings that they book. So for an interesting stat, Caleb, 36% of those simple meetings are actually booked by 2% of our bookers.
So how many percent?
2%.
Wow.
So if you think of those learning and development teams, they would book a lot of repetitive meetings, and they would want us to be able to do that more efficiently. So I guess for lots of different agencies and for venues, at the moment, a lot of that is done by going backwards and forwards on a shared spreadsheet. Wouldn't it be great if we could do one booking online and then repeat that booking with the venue, and then it is done in a click? And then that means that the skilled, experienced person that's been working for us for 10 or 15 years doesn't have to spend their day going backwards and forwards doing amendments, because it can all be done online.
Yeah.
That would be my utopia.
Utopia. There's another keyword, right? Simple meetings, utopia. Can we define simple meetings? Can we put a definition around that today?
I think we can. I mean, I think the one day is probably quite a good way to think about it, because it's not just your sort of small 10-person meeting room that we're talking about. Like some of the things and venues that we've got using live availability at the moment, they could be a big livery hall like Stationers, or like a larger kind of cool funky venue like one of the Street Feast venues. They're kind of big places, but if it's a one-day conference, even it's for 500, 1,000 people, you need to know that date's free, and that's the start of the buying journey. So I'd say one day.
Sorry, you said 500,000 people.
500 or 1,000 people.
500 to 1,000 people.
Yeah.
You think that can be booked online?
I mean, we've seen those bookings start with live availability. Okay. So the client's busy. The boss has decided that we need the Christmas party for next year, but now, and has told given this thankless task to the events coordinator, who needs to get back with options for that afternoon.
Yeah.
And if you can check like that, then the venue's at the top of the pile. And we saw it's close to £100,000 booking, and that journey started with a live availability check, which put that venue at the top of the client's mind.
Okay. Did you want to add something?
I think that the availability, that differentiation between live availability and live booking. So if we could see that availability online, that means, as you said, that brings that to the top of the pile. I think for a meeting of that size, there's always going to be some kind of human interaction to check on the detail. But for a simple meeting, being able to do the whole thing online and actually have live booking, that's the split that I think we need.
Okay. So are we saying then that every space should have live availability? No?
No.
Okay. I just want to be clear. So what spaces should not have live availability?
I think that there would be some venues, and this is me speaking from having worked in a venue quite a long time ago, that a venue might not want to put online, and that's their choice to do that because they need to manage their yield and manage that carefully. And if they have all of their space online, there is nothing to stop somebody booking their biggest conference room for a Wednesday afternoon, which then blocks that out for the whole week. And that's got to be done really carefully. And I'm sure there's technology and algorithms to help that not happen. But we're not even at a point now where there's not a GDS for meeting rooms. So things aren't going to go from nothing to everything overnight.
You seem like you... Did you...
So the clients can add dynamic pricing to their rate schedules. So individually, if someone is looking for pricing, you can assign rates to that company type or that local corporate rate, or also you can look at the yield of your capacity of your rooms as well. So you've got a minimum number, rates for a Wednesday, 2-day rates. It's not as advanced as the GDS by any stretch of the imagination, but certainly for corporate rates, you can assign rates to that customer. So there are ways around it.
Yeah, and I think just picking up on the word should. I mean, there's no one whose position it is to say that a venue should be on live availability. But I think the point about being at the top of the pile, that's really important. You fast forward 2 years, and it becomes a commercial decision for venues. If you want that space to be at the top of the pile, and for someone searching for those dates to see that first, then you probably would. But if there's other things, maybe you share that space with someone else, and it's difficult to coordinate. There could be certain privacy issues, or it could be booked out most of the time by one client. It's a commercial decision for venues, but for spaces where they want to be top of the pile, I think it makes sense.
So, Mike, at IWG, across the Regis and Spaces platform, how are you handling these spaces within those locations, the buildings that you can't do live availability, or live bookings, I should say? Are you still showing them as live availability, or...
No, well, I mean, those spaces actually, at the moment, fall outside of the scope of what I'm directly working on, because it's managed really on a regional, local basis. So, our UK team have at a centre level or a regional operational level a process in place, and they will sell dozens of events every month across our network. That will be done slightly differently in France. It will be done slightly differently in the US. Now, on the longer-term roadmap at a group level is to get more structure and process around that. But there's so much to go for just with simple meeting room bookings that hasn't really got to my attention yet.
Okay. I'm going to turn back to the screen for a moment because I think we have some questions. So one question, what about venues that work with dynamic pricing, higher or lower price depending on client time of year? You sort of touched on this. Are you guys responding to dynamic pricing from your suppliers that you connect with?
So the way that we would work is we have rate programs for our customers that either we negotiate or they negotiate on an annual basis. One of our initiatives is we have a program called Meetings First, which is to help increase efficiency. So the traditional way of venue finding was to give your client 3 options. But actually, with the Meetings First initiative, we come back to the customer for a simple meeting with the best option. So at the moment, whilst we don't have full live availability, then that's a step in that direction. And we work with dynamic pricing on all of that. So the customer might have a rate of a day delegate rate, but we would always ask the venue at certain points of the year if there is an alternative rate available that is better. In the summer, for example, when we know that venues are quieter.
Okay. And at Regis, I've been on the website in the past looking at availability and noticed that the rate is pretty dynamic. Do you guys have algorithms in place to do that, or is there a daily process? How does that work?
Well, so we have a global pricing team which is responsible for all of our prices across all of our products, and that team is constantly reviewing and updating prices, but we haven't yet reached where we want to get to in terms of very sophisticated dynamic pricing algorithms. So it's on the roadmap. We know there's an opportunity there, but we haven't actually yet executed on it.
And how do you guys do it, Will?
So for us, dynamic pricing, it's a really big, difficult problem. And so at the moment, we're focusing, I think, more on the live availability, which can show along with a rate card, if someone should start that buying journey. And kind of focusing on that. Dynamic pricing will come.
Okay. So this next question is sort of the question that always comes up in this conversation, and it's a very valid question. And it's not just this conversation; it's any conversation with technology. Where'd it go? Oh, are we not losing the personal touch? If technology is enabling live availability, we're not having the phone call face to face or the conversation. Are we losing that?
Well, I guess it depends if it matters to the customer or not. The customer, for us, still has the option of going to the receptionist and speaking to the receptionist and booking, or phoning up, or booking online. So from our perspective, it's all about giving the options to the customer. And so I would answer to that question. If it's important and they want to have a conversation, they can do.
I think I would echo that. From an agency perspective, it gives our teams more time to spend with the customers that need that if we are pushing more things online.
Mm.
Yeah, I just echo what Nell said. I mean, we see it with our account managers, with our clients, and with our venues. Like, there's so much time spent just like looking up a date or chasing venues to find if dates are free. And if that time can be saved and actually spent having those conversations and doing that creative planning, like that's where you'll see like more of a bespoke touch, like from the saved time. Yeah,
at HPAA, we were looking at this topic for a couple years, and we recognized there's a massive amount of events that were sent RFPs out, and you had to send RFP and get 3 or 4 options back and compare. And that whole process for such a small meeting took away admin time from people who could be spending time on the bigger events and sorting those. So yeah, it's a massive savings. And I think if you think about when you go to your local Sainsbury's or Tesco, you have the option to go talk to somebody, or you can quickly go in and check out yourself, and it's the same concept. I'm a little bit biased. Maybe as a moderator, I'm not supposed to be, but I am.
If I could just add as well, I mean, if you could, when someone's made live availability with you or via Will, there's probably a higher percentage that's going to convert. So if you could tweak your conversion by 2%, just by getting live availability, what impact would that have on your business? Just from a tiny, tiny perspective, because someone's actually actively inquired with you by checking your availability. So it's just worth thinking about.
Okay. Well, I like that one. I'm going to save it to the end. How do unique and multi-purpose venues manage technology in terms of live availability? It's a little bit vague, but why don't we start here, since you are the tech supplier?
Sure. So, I mean, each venue is very unique. Every venue is unique. There isn't a standardized, even sort of, when you've got a brand like Regis, standard rooms are the same, but how people get to that building, do they have to walk through a central reception? Everything's changing. So you need to look at which spaces you want to show live availability to start with. So as we're saying, maybe not show your ballroom straight away. Let's just show your simple, for the smaller meeting rooms or the simple bookings. And then you can then, as you get more confident of that, you can then get to your larger events, larger rooms. But it's also about taking a step back of how you're portraying yourself to your customer. Right from your website, which is the first point of contact, how are you explaining how your building is? Do they know there's steps to one building? Do they know there's a dividing door? If you're not telling them that beforehand, are they going to be shocked on a show round as well? So if you can get that information right in front on your website with the photos and hook them in from that point, then I think availability can come as well.
Anybody like to add anything to that? Okay. So going back to simple meetings. I'm like getting things all mixed up here. Okay, going back to simple meetings for a moment. You guys can read the question here, but the question is, do they really exist? Because every meeting has different variables to them, and I know we've sort of kind of defined them, but can we really not say that every meeting does require that personal touch?
Well, I mean, from our perspective, it certainly does exist. I mean, I think about 50-60% of our meeting room bookings are small meeting rooms, so kind of 6 people or below, and the majority are actually 2 hours or under. And we have, we're pretty clear about what the customer can expect as a base level from a meeting room in terms of Wi-Fi, TV screen, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So also, when you combine that with most of our customers have been to one of our buildings before or booked in one of our meeting rooms before, then for those customers, they're pretty comfortable making that booking online, even if it's in a building they haven't been in before, and they're pretty comfortable with what they're going to get, and they don't need to speak to anyone about it beforehand.
Will?
And I think also a point worth making is even with instant booking, I mean, you do have the chance to actually tweak those details afterwards. Like if you're busy and you need to do like three afternoons of training, you can book in those spaces, and then you can let the venue know when you want the tea and coffee breaks, or exactly what which of the bits of AV you can include in the package you want afterwards.
So it's not like booking an airline ticket and they charge you every time you make a change.
Well, no, exactly. There are some things where you can make the booking, and then you can make those little tweaks.
Okay.
David.
A few more minutes for questions. I want to stand up and bring a mic to somebody. Somebody have a question? All right. Awesome. Make sure you say who you are. I know who you are, but.
Hi, I'm Chet from Micebook. Like yourselves, I've been looking at this space for about 5 years to see if we could integrate a great booking platform, live availability. And it seems, from what I'm hearing, the venue space is really where it's going to start, if it's going to take off at all, which hopefully it will. Have you any experience on the hotel side? And do you see there's way more friction and resistance on the hotel side to give live availability to spaces? Or do you think they're all on the same journey and there's not much difference? Any experience?
Anyone?
I think that it's not necessarily friction from larger corporate venues, it's more complexity. So for smaller, unique, unusual spaces, it is perhaps easier for them to put their availability online. But if you're talking to somebody from a big hotel group, a global brand, they might want to do it, but it's much more complicated for them.
Yeah, I'd kind of echo that. I think for smaller, unique ones, it's been more a kind of hearts and minds things that we've seen over the last 5 years, whereas actually the technology is easier. But for the big hotel groups, they want to drive revenue and distribute the inventory, and it's only. I mean, if you look at the big systems that they'll use to manage their meetings and event space, it's like this calendar year when they've actually released a lot of the functionality that enables that. So I think it's something you'll see a lot in the next couple of years.
Thank you. Anyone else? We have. Okay. We are going to stay behind for about 15 minutes if there's any questions, and there's a couple that we didn't get to here. But feel free to come up and ask questions. We're happy to chat one-on-one. But please give everyone a round of applause. Thank you for joining us.